The name of this game is Outer Plane. Outer Plane. First play too. First time playing it. I ain't never played it before. Tajia. Instructor. Ooh, who's this? Chuckle. Yeah, I think I can turn you into a real soldier. Oh, she got the gat. She got the gat. Ooh, and she's action here, bro. Action here squad. Let's go. That's two 3-star action here characters. Might use her. She's a defender. Oh, I got two of them. This one just didn't. It showed didn't show the summon. Just like the dude. Oh my gosh, three of them. Jeez. All right, one more time. They're events. They're event cards, so I'm using them now. Oh man. Dolly. That's gonna be somebody's favorite character. I can already tell you that's gonna be somebody's favorite character. Rico, what it do? Virtual DJ. All right. I think she should be like two, 3-star. Guzman, Ilya, and then blue. Who is this? Alpha. Right. Apparently already had Alpha. All right. Ooh, no way. Nope. Already got you. Nope. Nope. She can guard us. She's a ranger, so I got her in the back. She's a striker. Yeah, yeah. We good. Yeah. Twin miniguns. Okay. 20 AP. Yep, yep. Pretty standard. Yeah. AP costs certain cards. Gotcha. She got 400 AP. Oh, okay. That's what happens. Ooh. Well, okay. Well, now that I know that's what happened, uh, okay, it erases it. Okay, nah, that's good. I'm good with this because it adds a chain, so the chains do something. Oh, he's on fire. What you got? Okay, I get it. So they got 5-star systems. Oh, that's nice. So I get to work on these characters, all of them. So all the characters got 5-star systems. Oh, so you can waifu a character and be good. All right. These are old. Damn, that's a big. Bro, is that a sniper rifle or some kind of rocket propelled some kind of rocket launcher? Like that bullet is literally big enough to be a RPG. Mario. First, block every or defend ourselves, and then they attack. And they all hit the barrier. Boom, boom, boom. We build up MP. So every attack builds up MP. That's like 25 MP. Oh, no, it changes. No, I ain't gonna use that yet. Alright, so now we got our shields. At least two of us do. She does not have a shield now. I got something for that. Burned them. Ugh. Boom. Damn. That shit's still crazy. She got rockets too, bruh. She got rockets too, bruh. Okay, what we doing? I like how it's not a stock player, it's whatever your highest player is. So whatever you draw is whatever your highest player is that you have at the time. So what we doing? Yeah. Okay. So what we doing though? Oh, okay. And I probably got some stuff up here, but I just ain't opened it yet. Yeah. Clip all. Copy. I got it. Yeah, look at that. 13,000. 1,000. Oh, we doing some summons. Oops. This game is generous with pulls. Nobody knew. Ooh. I'll take it. Another fire type. Oh, she's a healer this time. Hey, right. She don't want to. She don't want to be found, does she? I wonder if this game can do flips. Yeah, got a dupe, dupes, dupes, dupes. Dolly again. That's like the third one I ever got. I can only do two more of these pools. Or one more of these pools. Ooh. Challenger. Ooh. You sound strong. Oh shit. Oh yeah. Oh, my squad is built. Iris. I like her. Magnolia student. Input, bro. I got a squad. Oh, she's a. Oh, I thought she was a fire type. Nah, she's all light. Oh, you can do 2,000. Oh, dang. Ain't the other one 1,500? Hers is 2 grand or 25, 2200, 2250. Another one. I still want her. Get on my nerves. As I get one character, I'll stop. Oh man. Like her. I see their different houses popping up. Tio. It's cool. Come on, man. Why you doing me like this? Already got you. Already got you. Huh. So you got to give them gifts. Okay. I knew there's a way you could do that. Oh, that's I like that animation. There we go. Oh, whoa. That's not on me. Can't put it the same way I had it. Oh my darling, bro. She starts singing "Oh my darling," blazing people with a minigun. That's insane. Oh, she does something different every time. Well, not every time, but she does do different stuff. That's cool. I like that. She says something different. It's not just the same phrase. What else? No, I know she sucks. So in this game, you want the defender in the front. Not there's no middle. Yeah, he's enraged. Okay. Ooh, switch hands. Break the state. Okay. Ah, hold on now. Hold on. Ah, got it. Okay. And the chain effect is sent burn, burn. This is why I try. I want all fire. So I can just burn, 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 burn. Oh, this is insane. Oh, bro. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I like this. Oh yeah. I like this. Yeah, I think I'm going to hold on to this one.
London, England, 2007. The British Ministry of Defence, or MOD, makes a startling announcement. They are releasing the entirety of their UFO files to the National Archives of England.
My belief in the MOD's motive was to have people stop asking them questions.
Publix Pharmacy is now in your neighborhood. Get in and out quickly by transferring your prescriptions to Publix Pharmacy. You can even bring your prescription bottles and we'll make the switch for you. Find a nearby location at publix.com/new pharmacy.
This is Work-Life Balance with Betterment, the automated investing and savings app. Betterment uses tax smart tools for your money, while you use street smart tools for your life. Make your money hustle with Betterment.
We could get away from all this difficult freedom of information and requests that people were making. They framed it in a way that it was all about cost cutting, but in reality it was almost fit for just the subject anymore. I still believe they take a very active interest in the subject. Just easy puppet imitate that interest.
After a rollout that took more than a decade, it came to light that the Ministry of Defense had accumulated over 60,000 documents pertaining to UFO encounters. But researchers sorting through the archives were able to determine that 18 key files were missing.
A number of very famous cases where people have taken some really good photos and some really good film imagery, but the MOD can't help find large parts of their files were seen destroyed. They were very good history on losing the important bits of information.
After a request was submitted, Ministry of Defense officials located the missing files.
Each file, by the way, contains upward of maybe 100, 200 documents. So we're talking thousands of documents. They sent those files to the National Archives and everyone was expecting an imminent release. But in an unprecedented move, the Ministry of Defense then recalled the files. Now, I've never heard of this happening before. To date, these 18 files remain under lock and key. So something very mysterious is going on.
Why would the British Ministry of Defense send UFO files to the National Archives and then suddenly recall them without explanation? Some government insiders have suggested that the files were moved for safekeeping, while another, even more secure facility was being prepared. When the National Archives returned the files to the British government, they were spirited away to an undisclosed location. There are those who believe that location is a former Royal Air Force base in the southwest county of Wiltshire called Runlow Manor.
Okay,
A
1700s.
site that the Ministry of Defense used to perform UFO investigations dating back to the 1940s. On the surface,
Yeah,
it appears to be nothing more than a quaint English manor house. But deep beneath this structure lie an astounding 2.2 million square feet of vast caverns divided into many smaller chambers. These underground quarries were excavated in the 19th century to mine sandstone, a type of limestone used to build the nearby city of Bath and several other famous cities. 1939, England was drawn to
Man,
World
I got a
War
bunch
II,
of 3 stars.
and the British Royal Air Force took over the depleted quarries, transforming them into an underground aircraft factory. At the end of the war, many such facilities were returned to civilian control, but Ludlow Manor and its over 2 million square feet of secret tunnels and chambers were never surrendered.
For years, it was home to a group called the Provost and Security Services. They're kind of like the James Bonds of the British Royal Air Force. They do espionage investigations, counterintelligence programs, things like that, even terrorism investigations. But back in the 1990s, and certainly going back to the 1950s,
Oh, I gotta
the
eat.
Provost
Oh,
and
I just get
Security
in the
Services
characters.
were heavily involved
I got
in
the picture.
UFO investigations.
Oh yeah.
Now, for years, the Air Force and the military
Oh
state
yeah.
denied that any UFO investigations were going on at Runlow Manor.
Oh.
Then a
Oh no.
document got released and it showed that actually, yes, UFO investigations had been done from Runlow Manor. And the staff there had been working hand in glove with those of us in the headquarters building in London.
Shortly before the Ministry of Defense released their UFO files in 2007, they announced that Ludlow Manor was no longer in use by the military. But if that's true, why are the grounds surrounded by chain link fences, monitored by security cameras, and even protected by guard dogs? To find the answers, in January of 2017, ancient astronaut theorist
You want
Giorgio
some work?
Tsoukalos
See how they like to
traveled to
work.
the protected boundaries of Ludlow Manor. Joining him in his search for the truth was Nick Pope, who in the early 1990s worked for the Ministry of Defense investigating UFOs. We're here.
During your time with the MOD, what did you learn about this place or any type of UFO cases that may have happened around this area? Well, this whole area is rich in UFO sightings. Ludlow Manor was the headquarters of a unit known as Provost and Security Services. Now, this is all tied up with Air Force security and intelligence. UFO sightings were investigated by staff based here at Ludlow Manor. For years, we denied it. We told Parliament, the media, and the public that these things were no interest, that Ludlow Manor had no involvement in this, and yet when the files were declassified, it turned out that people were right here. And so this building really was at the heart of Britain's secret UFO research, and particularly the underground facilities below us. All sorts of secrets and research and investigation projects went on from this particular
There's
facility.
one character left.
While the Manor House was the base of Ludlow Manor and the
That's
headquarters
no.
of British UFO investigations, access to the underground
No, no
facilities
more it
is
ain't.
found 2 miles away at the equally secretive installation known as the CCC.
It's close to where we are. It's all part
Get your
of the
weeklies out of the way
underground
with Bar.
facility. So there are tunnels which start right
Oh,
underneath the manor house here and
I
go to
got
the
this gear.
CCC. Nobody knows
Seriously?
exactly how many people work down there. It's thousands. Nobody knows exactly what they do. And I worked for the government
I
in
don't want to
ministry
retry
defense for 21
because
years. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know if I'm gonna get
So,
that.
and even if I did, I wouldn't be able to tell you, of course.
Are the UFO files withheld by the Ministry of Defense being kept at Ludlow Manor, as ancient astronaut theorists believe? And could even greater secrets be hidden at the mysterious site known as the CCC?
Officially, it's called the Horsham Computer Center, and you can't get in there. It's absolutely off limits. Whatever's going on down there, it's big.
Despite the fact that it is not open to the public, ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos asked Nick Pope to take him to the CCC for a first-hand look at the installation.
Oh, I have her. Oh, I do have her.
As a former
Oh,
employee of the
game
Ministry of
changer.
Defense, Nick
And
did
she
not
gets the
feel it was
equipment.
appropriate for
Because why not?
So I'll see you later, Nick.
Yes.
Take care. Here we are. CCC.
And she's like, I'm gonna give it to her,
The lights are on.
and I'm gonna give it to her as
And
well.
just like Nick explained, it's got barbed wire. It is fenced down, impenetrable.
According to the British Ministry of Defence, the CCC is simply a data processing center for the Royal Navy. But it's true. Why is it so heavily guarded?
Clearly, it's access to what seems to be an underground system. And if the stories that Nick told me are true, then underneath our feet is a vast system of tunnels and underground facilities.
Within minutes of Giorgio's arrival at the security gate, the crew is met by a military police unit.
One question. Can you tell me anything about this place?
It's in Los Angeles. It's actually come down the road. It's from see.
Unfortunately, the situation
I
ends
gotta
with
pass
the building being
level
halted
2-7.
while we try to find the truth.
Okay, that's fine.
What is it that's so top secret that Giorgio and his camera crew are not even allowed to film the entrance from public property?
So it was exactly how you said. Fortification, barbed wire fence. And in like 5 minutes, and then a police car showed up. I said, well, I think it's time for you to leave. So I think you did exactly the right thing to get out there while you could. But you know that A, it is operational, and B, it's obviously important that they send the security people out. I guarantee you, they had eyes on you from the moment you started.
Oh, that's nice. Chain combo right here. Just off rip.
Extraterrestrial investigations
That'll be team
that were
1.
previously carried out and
And then
run
team 2.
ancient astronaut theorists say yes and suggest
I
that they
have
not
you
only
there.
look into
It's
UFO
out of
reports,
see
but
what it
a
said.
mysterious phenomenon
Okay,
that's
that'll
been
be
out
team
in
2.
County Wiltshire for thousands of years.
And team 3 will consist of you in the front, you in the back, and then
The many strange happenings associated with the area. Giorgio and Nick arranged to meet with them to discuss why the Ministry of Defense might have chosen this location
here,
to be the headquarters of their UFO investigations.
Looking at the
and you
center of weird activity
right
in the whole
here,
of Great Britain.
and then
We've
down
got
here.
UFOs,
Sure,
we've got crop circles, we've got the most
I'm gonna
intense
put up a whole fire squad.
prehistoric
So
sites,
boom,
ancient mounds,
boom,
burrows. Plus, we have obviously the strange activity that surrounds places like Rugby Manor and Caution as a whole, where we are here today. Absolutely. Some of these sites, I don't think people realise, but they're all
boom.
the Egyptian pyramids. Absolutely. We've got here Stonehenge and Avebury itself. Most people think that these sites go back 4,500 to 5,000 years, but they in fact go back at least 10,000 years. I lived in the centre of Avebury, which is the largest observable complex in the whole of the world. UFOs have been seen in the vicinity of the stones there. Sometimes have been seen to actually come into the circle and land.
Hold on.
Other times they have manifested into strange shapes, figures, things like that. All around the country, there are certain areas where UFOs manifest more than anywhere else. They're called window areas. And I believe that the area around Stonehenge and Avebury is exactly one of those window areas. Because there are reports of UFOs and strange lights being seen here for several hundred years. And it's long been speculated that there's a connection between UFOs and what are known as ley lines.
In 1925, amateur
The
archaeologist
second team
Albert
is stronger than the first team. That's only because
a book in which he proposed that man's earliest
geez,
monuments and megaliths
Level 5. But we about to change that.
ley lines. Some researchers claim
Level
scientific
100
testing
is crazy
shows
already.
evidence that the ley lines are
The game
magnetic
just
in
came out.
nature and delineate the lines of Earth's unseen energy fields. I'm aware of at least one ley line that goes all the way from England to the bottom of the
Bum, bum,
continent
ba,
of
ba,
Italy in one
bum,
straight
bum,
line.
bum.
And what's fascinating, especially
I get it. It plays right in the rhythm too.
they contain
Since she shoots it twice in a row.
our stars. We have
Ba, 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 ba. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I feel bad for you, buddy. It's about to get real messy for you. Yep, there it is.
could the so-called ley lines
What's her name? Didn't even get to attack.
energy grid. And might this explain both the high number of mysterious occurrences in this area, as well as the decision by the British Ministry of Defense to base the headquarters for their UFO investigations here?
Why is the government there? What are they seeing? There are many compelling UFO sightings in Wiltshire that are jaw-dropping in their level of significance. As one example, in 1948, a couple was walking through the fields of Wiltshire, and there at a low altitude comes a flying saucer. They see two
Mm.
people inside the ship, closely enough that they could tell the people were looking right at them. And this was in the immediate aftermath of World War II. And remember now, after World War II, the British never gave back the underground city of Manor. It could be that there are unusual energies there at that exact spot where the Ministry of Defense had the center of their UFO investigating headquarters.
Is it possible that the Ministry of Defense retained control of Ludlow Manor after World War II because they were aware that extraterrestrials have been visiting the area of Wiltshire not just in modern times, but for thousands of years? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest that further clues as to what is really going on in the vast underground facilities can be found by
Definitely see you got
investigating an
stronger.
incident that has become known as Britain's Roswell. London, England, May 22nd, 1955. In a report syndicated by the INS, famed American newspaper columnist Dorothy Kilgallen makes an audacious claim. British scientists and airmen, after examining the wreckage of a mysterious flying ship, are convinced that these strange aerial objects are not optical illusions or Soviet inventions, but actually are flying saucers which originate on another planet.
Dorothy Kilgallen was someone who had extremely good ties and links between the government, the intelligence community, and the military. Kilgallen heard a story that she said came directly to her from a high-ranking representative of the British government. And the story was back in 55, the British government got its hands on a crashed UFO. And judging from the size of the craft and the interior of the vehicle, it appeared to be piloted by very small humanoid-like entities. The event actually occurred during the Second World War, and this crashed UFO was put on ice, so to speak. Then when the war was over, the peace
It just shows the
reigned
short
again,
version
the
of their
military then
ability.
decided to pull
I
this
dig it.
wrecked UFO out of
It
the
still shows
hangar
their
and then
ability.
start investigating it. A lot of the rumours coming out about, quote, the real investigations are coming from Rudlow Manor. One of the more thought-provoking aspects of Rudlow Manor is this claim that it's sort of the British equivalent of Area 51.
Interestingly, This would not be the last time allegations surfaced that a crashed UFO had been retrieved and taken to Rundle Manor. Another, much more notorious incident occurred in the 1970s and was witnessed by an entire village. Sandrislo, Wales, January 23rd, 1974. Late in the evening, this quiet rural village in the Berwyn Mountains is rocked by an enormous explosion. 14-year-old Hugh Lloyd is in his home watching television when he feels the impact, and then receives call after call from his neighbors, most claiming to have seen an incredibly bright light falling from the sky and then glowing on the mountainside. Today, Hugh Lloyd still works on his father's ranch in Sandrislo. Are you Hugh? Yeah. Ancient astronaut theorist Georgios Tsoukalos, and a former UFO investigator for the British Ministry of Defense, met with Hugh to get his take on what really happened that night. Can you tell us your experience? Oh, it's all of my just because I'm an idiot, watching television and I just the next thing I they started shaking quite violently. You know, they started trembling, and then the stuff, and there was anything like that before. And next day we went outside to check, and it was all okay. Got back out, and the phone started so needless things, you know, saying what the hell was that? Are you okay? You put the phone down, and then they phone.
That's how we level up our characters.
You're okay. So they pretty much had similar experiences. Oh yes. So you're not the only one. And you were 14 years old. How did your parents react? Well, they were in the home in the next village, and they felt there as well. And what time of evening was this? It was roughly 59. So, you know, some people have suggested that it was nothing else but an earthquake, which I don't subscribe to this idea, but have you had any earthquakes around here? Like that? Time they were trying to say, remind people of seeing were people with lamping, you know, that hot. But Rabbit saw that light, and it was much brighter than all people in it. And it was something almost blinding. Well, I never seen a light like before, and never seen anything like it since. Wow. According to ancient astronaut theorists, what really happened in the Berwyn Mountains that night was the crash of an extraterrestrial spacecraft that was retrieved and taken to Rundle Manor. They suggest that the most compelling clues can be found by examining not the event itself, but what happened after. At 9:10 p.m.
Such a
on the
generous
night
man.
of the mysterious incident in Sandrislo, approximately 30 minutes after the strange lights and violent tremors were reported, a police officer arrived at the home of eyewitness Lloyd. There's a knock on the door, and there's a police officer. And he said there's been a report of a plane crash. And I say, no, he's quite important. He's got pimps on his shoulder. Right, so a senior officer, not one of the local. No. Because the police turned up, they just assumed there was a plane crash. A plane crash? For info, who worked at the Ministry of Defense and has seen the file of this incident, this is a surprising detail. The official report only mentions a meteor and nothing about a plane. And I remember he said he was expecting it. And then later asked him where you were based, and he said Bali, which it's something to lose in half an hour and a half today. But to that time, you know, talking 2 hours plus. Right, and roughly what time did he turn up at the house? 25 minutes, 30 minutes after the incident? Right, so there is no way that he could have got in a farmer. No way, not in a car, in a vehicle. The officer commandeered the family's truck and drove with Hugh to the crash site. Nick and Giorgio were taken on the exact same journey that was made that night. How high is the mountain? At the very top, about 2,800 feet.
You know, one thing that struck me is this is a pretty difficult drive, so you've got to be pretty determined to get a whole bunch of people up here.
Yes, and for what purpose? Unless it's really something of importance.
Yeah, this is not to be undertaken lightly, is it?
No.
An interesting thing is the fact that it was an inspector who came out.
Yes, it was unexpected.
I mean, that's the thing. You see, in the UK, most cops are constables, and then next up from that is sergeant, and then inspector is above that. So it's actually quite a senior rank. This, to me, says that somebody somewhere
Veronica.
was treating this as an important high-profile incident that needed someone with the seniority and clout to deal with it.
According to you, the police inspector directed them to stop at this spot,
Mm.
although he was allegedly unfamiliar with the area and seemed to have no reason for doing so. It was at this location that he witnessed an incredibly bright light in the distance. So down there,
You walk to the left there,
okay,
just over there. There's a little clump of trees. To the left of the valley, that's where the light was.
so not in the trees, but
You know,
beyond in the valley.
in the valley.
When this light appeared, did it seem to you as if it was an explosion?
No. This was definitely quite strong white light from the ground.
And how long was it shining for?
No more than 15 seconds.
According to you, the inspector wanted to get a closer look at the mysterious light, but then received a curious command from his superiors.
He asked me, can you take the vehicle with us source the light test? So we went down that way a quarter of a mile and turned left on the track, and then this very different message came and said, come back and put light.
So it sounds like it was a stand down call.
Yes, like they were looking for crash sites. Why? When you were half a mile away from where we wanted to go, and they were called down.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
Curiously, the official explanation for these events provided by the Ministry of Defense did not include either fox hunters or a plane crash, as was told to you that night. And the story they did provide involved an incredible coincidence.
The story is apparently that there was an earthquake that hit the village, but at the same time, there was a bright fireball meteor breaking up in the Earth's atmosphere. So, not one extraordinary event, but two at exactly the same time. Some people said, has there been a UFO incident? Has there maybe been a UFO crash? Over the years, the UFO community has become convinced that this was indeed a UFO crash, that the military hold secret operation to secure the crash site, recover the wreckage and many bodies, and take it to a secure facility. Many believe that that secure facility is Rundlo Manor.
If what you, Lloyd, and hundreds of others witnessed on that night in 1974 really was an alien craft falling from the sky, might the wreckage have been taken to Rundlo Manor for investigation? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, suggest that perhaps the most compelling evidence of all can be found by re-examining the best documented UFO encounter, the Rendlesham Forest incident. Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk County, England. 200 miles east of Rundlo Manor lies 6 square miles of woodlands and has become notorious as the site of Great Britain's most incredible UFO encounter. On December 26, 1980, airplanes leased to the United States Air Force by the RAF. Strange lights are reported on the horizon in what appears to be a possible downed aircraft. 2 U.S. servicemen are dispatched to the site. According to accounts, conspicuous veil as they approached the targeted area, and the air itself felt electrically charged as they closed in. Strange lights were seen about 3 to 400 meters away from an area that was called the Eastgate. And patrolling officers at the Eastgate saw the lights above the forest, and they thought potentially it was down there aircraft in distress. So two of them, Sergeant Peniston and Airman John Burrows, further into the forest. Once at the so-called crash site, the men observed a strange triangular craft on the ground, approximately 3 meters wide at its base.
It appeared to be either hovering or on legs. And it had clearly come down into this small clearing and smashed some of the branches off the tree. So there was physical evidence which was looked at afterwards. And so the men looked at this strange object.
I noticed that there was an inscription on the side of the aircraft. I was expecting to find, I don't know, USAF, something like that. And when I find bliss, Victoria Bliss, made no sense at all. Then I was running my hand over the side of the craft. It was very warm to touch. At this time, I was getting a feeling of electricity that was just bouncing. It was much, much stronger. There was this feeling of being drawn into it, or being pulled into it. Like someone was holding a picture of zeros, ones in my mind's eye.
The strange vision Sergeant Peniston had upon touching the ground has made this one of Britain's most famous UFO encounters. But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that even more compelling is what happened after. The following evening, further strange sightings occurred, and also the night after, reported by U.S. Air Force Colonel Charles Holmes. Colonel Holmes led his own search party to put an end to the confusion. But instead of finding a logical explanation, they discovered high levels of radioactivity where Burroughs and Peniston had previously seen the strange craft, and 3 impact holes in the ground. They then spotted a light in a nearby field that suddenly came towards them through the trees at high speed. One of the people with me said, "Look there to the north." There were 4 or 5 objects in the sky. They were elliptical, round. They changed shape. They moved at very high speed and sharp angles to their turns, so they were doing some type of a bridge turn. One came at high speed, stopped directly overhead, 3, 4, maybe 5,000 feet, sent down a concentrated beam about 8 to 10 feet from us. It was about a foot in diameter. I would describe it today as probably like a laser beam. There's the other object in the sky sending down similar beams on Woodbridge Base. Apparently these beams were falling down into or near the weapons storage area. I was really concerned then. I suspected it was some kind of scout to see what was inside the ordnance inside. What we do know is Lieutenant Colonel Polk saw Colonel Williams just a few hours later and told him that beams had been shot down into the storage bunkers. And he said, "I think the ordnance needs to be checked out." If Colonel Holt's report is true, why were these craft emitting beams of light down into the Woodbridge base? According to some ancient astronaut theorists, they've been conducting a search, not for nuclear weapons, but for one of their own craft.
They were moving around erratically, he said, as if conducting some sort of grid search. The reason he said that was that beams of light were flaring down from this UFO into one of the most sensitive parts of the base, the weapons storage area. Maybe the aliens would be looking for crashed UFOs, maybe their own alien technology to prevent us from trying to back engineer it and build our own spacecraft.
Could it be that the UFOs witnessed over the highly secure Woodbridge base were aliens searching for one of their own downed craft? Might they have considered this base the most most likely place the British government would hide such wreckage, unaware of its true location in the underground facilities of Ludlow Manor. Ancient astronaut theorists believe the truth lies within the 18 UFO files the British government has withheld from the public, and that it might also exist in documents recently declassified by the CIA. Washington, D.C., October 2016. In the weeks leading up to the United States presidential election, WikiLeaks publishes over 20,000 pages of private emails belonging to John Podesta, the chairman of Hillary Clinton's campaign. Within these emails, it is revealed that Podesta has a strong interest in releasing the CIA's classified UFO files should Clinton become president. While his candidate lost the election, Podesta ultimately got his wish. On January 18, 2017, in Barack Obama's last days as president, the CIA uploaded nearly a million classified UFO files to its website. The move prompted new calls for the British government to release the 18 files that they held back from their own disclosure of UFO reports that began in 2007. But still, the Ministry of Defense will not release their documents. Could these files hold information about extraterrestrial activity not even known to the CIA? And do they remain hidden at Rundle Manor?
I think the MOT is no way to have that honest debate with the public. There's no way to sort of open up these files. I don't think they trust people with information. They don't want an informed populace. If you get access to all the information the MOT holds, I think you can point to the fact that the MOT is full of information that will be visited by extraterrestrial craft. We now know that there are at least two confirmed cases of crashed extraterrestrial spacecraft being relocated to Rundle Manor. This includes Dorothy Kilgallen's claim that craft crashed in World War II and brought to Rundle Manor. It also includes the Berkeley incident that occurred in 1974. The Ministry of Defense vehemently denied that they were involved in UFO investigations, and yet now, thanks to classified documents, we know they were in fact actively investigating the subject, and Rundle Manor was at the center of it. So now that we find out that even after they told us they released all the documents, 18 documents being held back, something tells me that when we go into those documents, we will find that all roads lead back to Rundle Manor.
I think it's highly likely that they know some intelligent extraterrestrial life exists. The only reason why this information has not been made public is because of this darn thought that we as a human species can prove that we're not alone in the universe. And I think that all government agencies around the world should give the people living on this planet a little bit more credit because it just shows the greater picture and that we are part of this larger picture. Could the remains of an extraterrestrial craft really lie deep beneath the surface of Rundle Manor? And if so, might the recent disclosure by the American CIA push the British government closer to revealing an incredible truth? Proof that first contact with extraterrestrials is no longer stuff of science fiction, but of scientific and historical fact. Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. If we're true, did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And if so, might there be evidence here on Earth hidden in Washington Monument. Built in the 19th century to commemorate the first president of the United States, it towers more than 555 feet above America's capital city. Its pinnacle, fashioned into a distinctive pyramid shape, the monument is considered to be the tallest stone obelisk in the world.
Obelisk is a generic phrase used for the rectangular pillars that are a little pointy at the top that you find in ancient Egypt, ancient Rome. They would have writing on them. They were used often to record battles, special events, record the entire reign of a particular king or ruler. So now, here in the United States, we've done a similar thing. The Washington Monument, a symbol of the United States and of the power in Washington, D.C. The Washington Monument is built out of blocks of stone, but that looks identical to an Egyptian obelisk. But those obelisks are different. They are one solid stone.
Single standing massive stones are known as monoliths, and millions of them were used to construct monuments all across the ancient world, including locations such as Turkey, Peru, and Ethiopia. But why did ancient man begin to create these massive monolithic structures? Could there be something inherent in the quality of stone that might hold some sort of influence or power over mankind? Perhaps the answer can be found at a location 90 miles west of London, in the English countryside. Stonehenge, England. Here, on the Salisbury Plain in the county of Wiltshire, stands the most sophisticated prehistoric stone circle in the world. According to radiocarbon dating, this striking arrangement of monoliths was placed on this wide plain in southern England more than 4,000 years ago. Consisting of more than 100 stone blocks, the monoliths create a larger structure known as a megalith. Stonehenge, the world's most famous megalithic structure, derives its name from the material used to construct it, and also from the term henge, which refers to a circular or oval-shaped bag that surrounds a central flat area. Stonehenge is just 25% of the original monument. 75% can be destroyed forever. Originally, they had 60 huge blocks that formed a perfect circle. The question is, who was able to move them and what was the purpose? Although the specific origin of this site has eluded researchers for centuries, the physical construction of Stonehenge is believed to have taken place in different stages over a period of several thousands of years.
It's now believed the very first part of Stonehenge is three great wooden post holes, which are now in the car park, and there's blobs of paint on them. These are dated to at least 10,000 years old. The next phase of construction of Stonehenge was around 3,200 to 3,400 BC, when they built a great earthen henge, and there was just a couple of stones there. Then a few hundred years later, they brought in the blue stones. These are the ones that were brought over 100 miles away from Sally Mountain to Wales. The major monoliths are the great sarsen stones. They were brought from much closer, about 20 miles away. And some of them weigh up to 50 tons.
Multi-ton stones being carved from the landscape and transported distances of up to 100 miles. Is it really possible that a prehistoric people could accomplish such an enormous and seemingly impossible task?
The theories really range from they only use rollers and tree trunks, which is kind of unlikely when you look at some of the terrain they would have had to go through.
There have been teams of Brits who have tried to recapitulate these things. How did they get them across the rivers between Wales and Stonehenge? How did they go up and down through valleys and over hills?
One explanation associated with Stonehenge dates back to the Arthurian legend, and the legend says that the stones at Stonehenge were brought from Ireland by Merlin, who was King Arthur's magician. Merlin was sent to transport the stones by levitating them and pushing them along, just with his bare hands, all the way across the landscape from Wales to Stonehenge.
The great 20th century French philosopher and historian Jean Markel wrote over 40 books on the life of Merlin and Arthur and the Celtic tradition. And Markel was adamant that Merlin was a real person. He was also adamant that Merlin was an incredibly powerful, otherworldly being who was here to teach us to move beyond the human restrictions and boundaries.
With the legend of Merlin, from contact with extraterrestrial entities in the past, and that they provided advanced technology to help transport and place the monoliths. So, why would stone be the ideal material needed to construct the site?
Probably it was worth using as a medium if you wanted to impress the gods. Because it was quite likely that people saw stone as being synonymous with gods, because it seemed to them to last forever.
If they're going to build a monument to provide a testament to how long-lived their culture is, stone's the best way to go. Stones were recognized to have very spectacular properties of toughness, of hardness, and some of them other properties such as quartz crystals, which we see in particular use in a lot of these cultures.
The blue stones that create the outer and inner circle of Stonehenge contain quartz crystal. The properties of those stones have been found to have effects on the human body, to impart vibration and beneficial effects to the holder of those stones, to have healing properties.
And in fact, it's often been said Stonehenge was some healing place where people came and with their ailments to be cured.
For some researchers, further clues to Stonehenge's extraterrestrial connection can be found in one of the site's most striking features: the precise position and alignment of each stone that makes up the megalith. Seen from the air, Stonehenge is actually a replica of our solar system. Almost concentric circles, they all represent one planet in our solar system. How did they know this? And according to the ancient texts of the ancient traditions, this knowledge was given to our ancestors by none other than extraterrestrials, by the gods.
Some people think Stonehenge was some sort of calendar marker so that ancient cultures could know when was the right time to plant. Other people think that it actually was a celestial calendar that was designed to show when we would pass through certain very, very intense meteor streams.
We know that through the position of different monoliths, they were able to watch the summer solstice and winter solstice, even the movement of some star systems.
So who was it then who needed these astronomical calculations?
Would it be the extraterrestrials, or rather the priestly groups that the extraterrestrials were cultivating here on Earth and training them to monitor the stars and the heavens and the moon and the eclipses? Is it really possible that otherworldly beings designed Stonehenge so ancient man could gather data about the stars? If so, why? And what was the ultimate purpose behind obtaining the celestial knowledge? Ancient astronaut theorists believe further clues can be found by traveling deeper into the English countryside to another monolithic site that is 15 times larger than Stonehenge, and even more mysterious. Southwest England. Here, Just 17 miles north of Stonehenge is Avebury, the largest megalithic stone circle in the world. Originally constructed with hundreds of monoliths, some experts believe this immense site was once a major center of religious ritual in Great Britain.
Avebury is probably the most
James, Charles.
It's the adventure of dragons. Great PGA drink now, only looking guy.
Crisp zucchini at Aldi might inspire you to step up your game.
May I interest you ladies in some horse French? It's French from now to sleep.
Quality at unbeatable prices. It's an Aldi thing.
significant, most interesting megalithic site in Great Britain. Partly because it's the largest.
And just imagine the magnitude of what we're dealing with here. There's now been a whole village built inside it. It's so large. Stones are huge. They're probably between 20 and 50 tons each. They're rough-hewn stones in a great circle. There were even two stone circles within Avebury itself. And these were roughly the same size as Stonehenge each.
Gilbert's Brilliant once said that Stonehenge was like a parish church compared to Avebury, which was like a great cathedral.
Approaching Avebury from at least two different directions were avenues of stone that led off into the local landscape. Plus, on top of that, there were other monuments locally as well. Silbury Hill, the largest man-made mound in Europe, and the West Kennet Long Barrow, which was a burial chamber dating back perhaps 6,000 years.
Encompassing more than 28 acres, mainstream historians believe Avebury was constructed from 2850 BC to 2200 BC by Neolithic Britons, and like Stonehenge, was used during secret rituals.
They were celebrating the different cycles of the years, the changing of the seasons. It seemed as if this was necessary within their society to show that there was some kind of rhythm and cycle within nature that was not only understood but could be controlled in some manner. By creating something like this, there is stability in the world. Chaos and disorder cannot reign.
Avebury was considered to be a meeting point. It's significant at the solstices at the midsummer and the midwinter. But exactly what took place there, and exactly what people are going to believe, we don't know.
According to some researchers, there may be a profound purpose for this circular alignment of stones at Avebury. One perhaps connecting the monoliths to celestial beings that visited the site thousands of years ago.
The area around Avebury has always been associated with kind of magic and mystery. There's been lots of walks seen there, UFOs, ghost sightings, there's been hundreds of crop circles around the area. So it's got this strange mystical feeling about it.
The mythologies, in conjunction with Avebury, always point to the sky, to some celestial beings, the shining ones as they were called, descending from the sky and educating people in various disciplines: agriculture, mathematics, geometry, engineering.
In many cases, with Avebury and other giant megaliths, it's as if they're set up by some ancient people, perhaps an extraterrestrial race, who essentially went out and surveyed these wilderness lands. And as part of their surveying, they left what we would call gigantic survey markers.
And then in certain places, for unknown reasons, they made stone circles, like Avery.
It is pretty clear that in Avery you have this fenced-off environment whereby only certain people are able to come because the stones somehow embody the deities. And they thought that they could communicate with the deities through these monolithic stones.
Could Avery's location and building materials really have been chosen in order to enable communication with extraterrestrials? And if so, might this explain why man has been drawn to stone structures throughout the world since ancient times? Perhaps the answers can be found at another mysterious city, one that was built on top of a giant rock. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. Known as Lion's Rock, its natural monolith towers 600 feet over the surrounding landscape.
It was discovered in 1831 by a British Army officer named Jonathan Forbes. What he found there was a natural monolith, a giant cliff rock, and stairs had been cut into it, and then a palace had been built on top, and it's extremely remote area and high up vertical cliffs.
Sigiriya was certainly a Buddhist monastery from the first millennium BC. And then around 500 AD, it actually became a fortress and a palace for a local king. There are gardens, palaces on the very top of the rock. Then there's various caves, and within these caves are different murals.
These fresco paintings feature portraits of women that some researchers believe represent ladies of the king's court, while others suggest the women are religious figures. But according to ancient Babylon theorists, the images reveal more evidence of extraterrestrial contact in the distant past.
We find some of the most amazing paintings of people emerging out of the clouds. And they're actually floating in midair. And you have to wonder, what did our ancestors try to depict here? According to the local myths and legends, Siberia was created with the help of the gods who descended from the sky. What a beautiful, poetic way to depict something that we might have witnessed. It was a complete misunderstanding of a visitation by technologically advanced space travelers.
We see so often how these animatic rocks are worshipped by our ancestors. They somehow are a gateway between our world and the world of the gods. And so in Siberia, we're seeing this once again confirmed. The very concept of a monolith is very important, very sacred to a people. Also, the concept of the mountain reaching to heaven makes me think of the celestial or the cosmic mountain. Mount Meru is the name used in Buddhist cultures to describe a cosmic mountain. It's actually described in ancient literature as a mass of golden light, like a golden blazing fire in the shape of a mountain. It's the center of the universe, and it exists at many levels
He
through
just
there,
healed himself.
not in a physical sense, but in an energy sense.
Oh, he upgraded too. He's over 40 now.
Cities. Mount Meru was the place of God. It was seen as the place of connection, a place of communication.
So that's the
with God
thing that can
himself.
happen in this game. So they can
This
start out at
point
level
of
20 and
access
just go up.
between this world and
So they
heaven.
scale up the more damage I do.
Siberia is basically
Okay.
a full-scale replica of Mount Meru. Our ancestors took to this rock, and
Well, I can get him to level 50 apparently
saying, this
without
is the rock
dying.
we have in this specific place, so we're going to use it in order to establish an uplane and a downlink to the gods in the sky.
Is it possible that Sigiriya was was built in order to honor and connect with extraterrestrials, as ancient astronaut theorists believe. If so, might other monoliths reveal
Oh, my
more
healer died.
evidence of these ancient space visitations?
Oh,
Perhaps the
it's gonna be over
ultimate
for me.
can be found carved in stones, buried half a world away. Easter Island, isolated in the Pacific
Oh,
Ocean, more than 2,000 miles
you
west
got
of
me level
Chile.
60.
This tiny landmass is home to nearly 900 monolithic stone statues.
On Easter Island, we have these huge heads and
Okay.
torsos that are carved out of the volcanic rock. They are called the moai. Some of them that have been erected are 30 feet or so tall, weighing up to 75 tons.
You don't realize that they're really buried right up to their chest, and that these statues are 2 or 3 times as large as we can see, because most of them is below ground.
They look inward toward the center of the island. They also seem to look up toward the skies. So I think there's a deeper significance, and it has to do with the heavens. It has to do with things that were happening in the sky that were very important to the people, and that they are recording in these moai and pointing to look upward. There's something going on there.
The
According
guild
to
members.
archaeologists, the native Polynesian inhabitants of Easter Island, known as the Rapa Nui people, constructed the moai between the 12th and 18th centuries AD to honor their ancestors. But recent archaeological excavations have revealed that the figures were naturally buried over thousands of years. It seemed that some guests came, filled them, and probably those heads stood into their original builders. If the moai are older than previously recognized, who really built them and why? Considering the Rapa Nui are thought to have arrived on Easter Island no earlier than 300 AD, is it possible that celestial beings visited here thousands of years before? Ancient astronaut theorists believe these monolithic figures provide clues that the Rapa Nui ancestors may actually been space travelers.
You cannot exclude that they are representation of celestial ancestors. We have all these statues, and the faces of the statues do not look like Easter Islanders. The statues they created, they look like robots with long, narrow noses, with narrow lips. They have nothing which compares the Easter Island people. So what do they represent?
They are elongated heads. They are also these cone heads that we see in Nazca, in Egypt, and other areas of the world. Who are these people?
One possible explanation for why these heads on Easter Island stone figures face the heavens is as if they were pointing a finger to their place of origin, but not because they forgot where they came from, but so the humans could remember.
Is it possible the Moai heads represent extraterrestrial beings nodding toward their otherworldly origin? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes and point to similar stone figures thousands of miles away in Southeast Asia as proof. Bana Valley, Indonesia. Hidden in the isolated mountains of the island of Sulawesi. More than 20 monuments are scattered in the fields of this farming region. Mainstream historians date the statues to the first millennium BC, although the actual date of their creation not been determined.
Hunter Valley has rice terraces, which are familiar throughout Indonesia and Southeast Asia.
But then in the middle of these rice paddies are these statues, and they're just sitting there. And when you look at it, you're baffled. The stones are coming from these deep river valleys that are some miles away, where there are giant boulders weighing 100 tons. But then to haul those giant boulders up into the valley, and then
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. We're one of America's largest financial services
That's
companies.
good.
Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading rusher. Hush up back there. Wow, I might have just said the hushing word. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Nationwide Investment Services Corporation and Denver, Columbus, Ohio.
erected and carved it into this giant 15-foot statue. And you don't know why they would do it or how. But how is it that monoliths halfway around the world can bear such a close resemblance to each other? Some researchers believe the inspiration came from the same celestial visitors.
Yeah, similar style carvings of these very strange, sort of alien-looking faces, which are very symmetrical, very beautifully carved, with intricate kind of craftsmanship built into them.
They wanted to make them resemble what, in my opinion, was a depiction of the ancestors, the gods, which somehow these stones were allowing to commemorate or communicate with these entities. You're basically telling us this is a memorial to our God, the deities who was once breath and who have left since.
Is it possible that ancient astronaut theorists suggest that these monoliths were created by mankind to pay homage to actual otherworldly beings who visited Earth in the distant past? And if so, might monoliths throughout the world have an even more profound connection to each other? Omar Stewart, Costa Rica. While clearing the jungles in the 1930s, crews discover hundreds of monolithic stone spheres. Many of them are huge. They're 10 feet in diameter. They're gigantically huge. Others are much smaller, the size of a basketball or of a car tire or something like that. To date, over 300 stone spheres have been found at archaeological sites across the region. And Las Bolas, as they are called, are some of the most precise stone carvings in the ancient world. Some experts believe these mysterious stone balls could be 96% completely spherical. A perfectly spherical round ball is hard to make. And in fact, where they're found is a primitive area. So the stone balls that we see in Costa Rica would have been very, very hard to make by just bashing them out with a rod.
We can only imagine how they may have been able to make such perfect spheres. These spheres are carved out of granites and granite diorites. These are very hard igneous rocks, difficult to work.
Not better, but of the hardest natural materials. And then of all these family saying that they people think that
It almost seems like there was some kind of megalithic carving school to create the most perfect sphere. Some of them still hidden within the jungles. So what they do is they're in Why did I construct it? According to the legends of Costa Rica, those stone spheres were used as cannonballs by the god of thunder to drive away god of wind and hurricanes. Now, these are all wonderful ideas of a story. As we all know, every story has a core of truth. And the question is, what is that core? Are the legends of God battling storms a description of ancient astronaut machinery at work, as some researchers suggest? And if so, might the discovery of stone spheres reveal the ultimate purpose for monoliths? Bosnia Herzegovina, 2004. A team of archaeologists discovered stone spheres in forests and creek beds in the town of Banja Luka.
You go into that area, it's a ravine in a mountainside that's been cut by a stream, and in it are all of these stone balls. Very similar to the ones in Costa Rica. They're half buried in this mountainside, and some are exposed. It's a tourist area. Bosnia has 4 or 5 areas where the stone balls can be seen.
The biggest source of Bosnian stone spheres is the central Bosnian town of Zavidovići. We took samples from 4 different stone spheres and samples of natural stone that we found nearby. And then we did chemical analysis. The conclusion was those stone spheres were made from the liquid state, they melted, they were adding certain additives to get a better properties of material, and when they got dry, certain molds, they are getting a perfect shape of the sphere.
Like most other monoliths, researchers believe the spheres were likely used for ceremonial rituals. But is it possible that these monoliths, like the stone spheres in Costa Rica, helped create a connection to celestial beings, as ancient astronaut theorists contend?
Another theory of the stone balls is that they were somehow used as star maps, and that they were rolled around, and they would show where stars were and their relationship to other areas. Very much like some extraterrestrial man.
It's also said that these stone balls were there to concentrate thought, that they were somehow physical devices, that somehow by touching or working with these stones, we were able to establish a bridge to another dimension. And so we might actually be looking at a civilization who realized that the places where these stone spheres were located were somehow power spots. Somehow there was some form of energy whereby if we were able to concentrate, we would indeed be transported to a world where we could communicate with the gods. And that might be why these stone spheres are located in the places they are.
Could it really be that these round monoliths were placed throughout the world to create a greater cosmic energy grid, as some researchers believe? If so, might stone spheres and other monoliths be celestial travel tools placed in power spots? Mortals or star travelers visiting Earth? And is it possible these advanced beings have left behind more evidence? Perhaps not on Earth, but approximately 140 million miles away. 1998. The Mars Global Surveyor snaps photos of what appears to be a monolith on Phobos, one of the 2 moons that orbit the planet Mars.
On the moon of Mars, Phobos, there's a very, very interesting obelisk or monolith there. They call it the Phobos monolith. Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, made a really big deal out of this and basically claimed that it
was artificial, and when we got there and studied it, it would change everything in terms of how we looked at our history.
Is it really possible there is an obelisk on a moon of Mars? One that is not a natural occurrence, but was, in fact, put there by otherworldly beings. So, might they have created similar structures on other planets and celestial bodies, perhaps even Earth, as some researchers suggest?
Egypt has a number of obelisks in it, and those obelisks are 4 or 5 thousand years old. And obelisks in Ethiopia may be that old too. Obelisks are pieces of crystalline granite, and within the granite is quartz crystal. So obelisks themselves are, in a sense, a crystal tower with all of the properties that quartz crystal brings to technology. It's an antenna, and any antenna can receive a broadcast and it can give a broadcast. And then we have these ancient obelisks that were at one point apparently all around the world. It would seem that there was a worldwide system similar to a wireless broadcasting system. These obelisks would broadcast power into the atmosphere. And remote locations around the world would pick up that power, much like a radio today or a television set, a satellite phone, or a computer. This seems to be the system that was set up by extraterrestrials thousands of years ago on this planet. And incredibly, they didn't just do it on planet Earth. So we may well find that when we go to Mars, we'll find obelisks there.
Is it really possible, as some researchers believe, that obelisks on Earth have a cosmic connection to the obelisk on Phobos, and that at one time many of the monolithic sites seen around the world were part of an immense system that would help to receive and distribute energy?
We have to realize that there is more than just the stones involved. There's a kind of energy field around them, and it works through the stones by way of their placement, put in a circle or in rows or standing singly. They would ground celestial energy, transmit it and download it into the local landscape. It was meant to be a kind of passive, continuous input to the Earth from the celestial and galactic realm.
Places like Easter Island, or remote jungle, or a remote mountain area, as long as you're able to dial in to that energy pattern and to the energy being put out, you would have power.
These sort of tall standing stones all around the world could easily be part of some kind of energy grid around the planet, connecting up all these ancient cultures, connecting up the energies of the Earth, all in different parts of the world, and somehow harnessing cosmic energy with Earth energy and used for various different purposes we're only just starting to understand today.
This sort of megalithic landscape was designed to create higher nodes of awareness in multiple places. The placement was specific to take advantage of implicit energy aspects and gradients in the landscape. The location of the stone is really important.
For example, Stonehenge is now known that those stones were positioned above the underground water flows. The water moves, generates energy, the stones receive the energy and slowly release it. Ancient people, they would be around those monoliths, keeping their hands on the stones, receiving energy.
And if the stones were arranged in a pattern, it would create a kind of geometry of consciousness that would have uplifting effects on people who were in proximity to them. Throughout the world, whether they are stone piers in Bosnia or megalithic monuments in Ainsley, what we're seeing is that our ancestors are saying that these stones are able to hold energy, the soul, the spirit of our ancestors, of the gods. And so what we see throughout the world is these monoliths, because throughout the world we are trying to establish this link between
interconnected by design, tapping into the energy of the earth and serving as a beacon to link with celestial beings. Is it really possible that ancient monoliths hold an advance? Perhaps extraterrestrial power we have yet to realize? And if so, just what will happen when we unlock the mystery of the monolith? When you're looking up at massive, massive monuments, Giza and elsewhere, get the inner sense that humans did not create these incredible structures. We know for a fact there is some type of geodetic connected world energy grid in all these sites. They were sharing some type of subtle energy. Was this possibly because at one time there were extraterrestrials here interacting? There are engineering feats that our ancestors accomplished that today we would have great difficulty replicating them. And in doing so, using a gigantic, most sophisticated of the scene, high tech. But these ancient people are doing things that modern construction crews cannot do even today. There are suggestions that you read about in ancient texts that speak of these magical incantations that were pointed at a stone block, and all of a sudden, stone, for example, levitated and things like this. So, were our ancestors capable, for example, of levitating stone blocks? Of course, our ancestors built any and all of the ancient megastructures. But what I'm suggesting is that the engineering knowledge was given to our ancestors by an advanced spacefaring race. Ancient stone fingers reaching for the sky and stretching out over several miles. Well, we're basically one step removed from cavemen. We're quarrying giant stones that weigh 100, 200 tons. And the remains of an Incan temple reported to have otherworldly origins. They once question comes up. Have you been missing the biospace? Millions of people around the world believe we've been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. One ancient aliens really helped to shape our history. And if so, is there an extraterrestrial explanation for the Earth's mysterious, unexplained structures? Located more than 500 miles away from the crowded streets of Istanbul, Şanlıurfa, in southeastern Turkey. There, in 1994, on a dusty hilltop, a local shepherd noticed the tip of a stone sticking out of his field. He began to dig, eventually unearthing a 19-foot pillar. Its edges were precise, and rising from its center was a relief carving of a strange animal. Upon closer examination, it appeared that the finely chiseled stone had been fashioned by talented stonemasons working with advanced tools. When word of the discovery reached the scientific community, one fact became obvious. Curtis Shepard had stumbled upon what is perhaps the most astonishing archaeological discovery in modern times, a site known as Göbekli Tepe. Test results have supported the idea that Göbekli Tepe is nearly 12,000 years old, almost 7,000 years older than Mesopotamia's Fertile Crescent, long heralded as the cradle of civilization.
In Göbekli Tepe, the oldest advanced site now on our planet. We know of no other site that is this advanced. It has now doubled the history of humanity.
But right there is this gigantic site with huge megalithic circular structures. It just stands there, a mystery, asking us to go figure, how was this done? What's the background to this? We don't know who made them. They just come out of the darkness of the last ice age where we know nothing and enter the stage of history already fully formed. And to my mind, this is indicative of a major forgotten episode in human history.
A lot of this, a lot of legends suggest that there were past civilizations of astounding sophistication and incredibly early pyramids. I think we have little glimmers, little suggestions around the world that there was something going on much higher, much more sophisticated, and much earlier period of time.
To put things into perspective, Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. That is several thousand years earlier in age than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. And indeed, according to biblical tradition, the world really began in 4000 BC, and yet that is 8,000 years later than the foundation of Göbekli Tepe. So clearly we have here something that contradicts our normal understanding of the evolution of civilization.
Curiously, after 13 years of digging, archaeologists investigating the ancient site have failed to recover a single stone cutting tool. The mystery of Göbekli Tepe is further compounded by the ancient stone carvings found throughout the site. They depict creatures like wild boars and geese.
We see various types of creatures, different animals, birds, insects, and even abstract human forms that seem to come together to create this very weird menagerie, which has totally baffled the archaeologists who have uncovered this site.
Located less than 350 miles from Mount Ararat, the site many biblical scholars believe to be the resting place of Noah's Ark, the animal carvings of Göbekli Tepe suggest a time in the region's history when the indigenous animal population may have been of a totally different origin. But do these carvings actually provide historical proof of the great flood that was described in the Bible?
Archaeologists are aware that there are more than 2,000 myths of a great flood which destroyed an earlier civilization.
Some researchers theorize that the events of a cataclysmic flood and a story similar to that told of Noah's Ark was recorded on the stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe. If true, that would push the date of the Great Flood back to the end of the last ice age, far earlier than the biblical period.
There is evidence that this may have ended quite catastrophically. There was a lot of things happening, a lot of migrations, possibly waters rising up very quickly, a lot of rapid changes in lifestyles.
But another, perhaps even more profound question remains. Who built Göbekli Tepe? For what purpose? did such an ancient site remain in nearly pristine condition for more than 10,000 years?
In the case of Tami, we find that the site was carefully placed underneath the sand. This site was buried. It appears as if somehow the usage of Göbekli Tepe was no longer there, and that people moved on and had such a reference to this important site that rather than destroy it, they put it to peace by burying it.
But why would the area's inhabitants carefully bury their monuments under 20 feet of sand? Is it possible that Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried in order to protect it from invaders? Or might the intention have been to preserve it in hope someday to return?
I do see a similarity across the globe from megalithic sites where these past cultures explain that they were built by the gods. But were they really gods? Or could they have been extraterrestrials?
Perhaps the answers can be found by examining another ancient site, one located half a world away in the mountains of Peru. Peru, home of the world's longest mountain range, the Andes, the spine of South America. Here, in a high river valley, among peaks towering over 20,000 feet, the Inca established their capital city of Cusco, which thrived for over 300 years, until Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century. Above Cusco, at an elevation of more than 12,000 feet, looms the ancient fortress of Sacsayhuaman, whose immense stone walls may hold secrets which predate the Inca themselves.
My feeling, very strong feeling, is that we're looking at a two-phase construction site in many of the so-called Inca stone monuments. And the Inca structures sit on top of much more ancient rock cut structures and megalithic structures that we just don't know built them. And this actually fits with the Inca's own view.
Like many Inca sites, Sacsayhuaman features astonishing stonework, but not all of it credited to the Inca. According to conventional archaeology, the Quilque culture built older sections of the site approximately 1,000 years ago, but the Inca themselves believed the site was constructed by an earlier unnamed race of people, led by a powerful god, descended from the skies.
Throughout time, there has been witness to a god named Viracocha that visited the South American people and blessed them and gave them all types of technology. And some of his physical characteristics make him stand out from the indigenous population because he was a very tall, pale-skinned, white-haired being.
But did this god Viracocha actually exist? Could he have been, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, a visitor from an alien world? If so, it might help to explain just how the ancient site was constructed.
This rock weighs about 20 tons. This is minuscule compared to many of the rocks at Sacsayhuaman. Today we have heavy machinery to move such stones, but in the ancient times, especially the Inca, they would have used massive human workforces working for massive amounts of time. A rule of thumb is it takes about 10 to 20 men to move a 1-ton rock. So when you're talking hundreds of tons, you're talking thousands of men. Adventure of Dragon's Hall.
There I was, scrolling eBay.
When I saw this,
Still in it. Is that the exact same one my mom wore?
sometime it was right there on eBay.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay.
we see is a culture who have got the technology to quarry giant blocks of stone, move them to the site where they want to build, and then to stack and cut and articulate these massive blocks into, in some cases, almost indestructible structure.
Talk about granite, you're talking about, say, composition of feldspar, binder, and quartz. So you need diamond to actually braid it or cut it. We would use diamond today to cut granite. Those are the kind of discoveries that lead one to question whether they were really using the tools in the ancient toolbox or whether there was something else at work.
Shaman Jorge Delgado has spent most of his life studying the mysterious structures of Peru, many built prior to the rise of the Inca Empire.
It's amazing all the weight of stones. It's really for any human to move, even in groups. And the other aspect is how it's put together. In some stones, when we see stood down, there's like some marks that it seems that it was dissolved. Walls are put together with blocks of stone weighing 50 or 100 tons, cut and shaped like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle so that they lock together so tightly that you can't even get a sheet of paper between them.
There are signs in many of these stones that show very large amounts of thermal heat have been applied to mold the stones in such a way that they fit perfectly. So it really does raise a lot of questions. If you look at the style the Sacsayhuaman wall was built, the blocks look as if they've been molded like putty. If you mold stone into place, then all of a sudden, as crazy as this sounds, it makes more sense because there is no mortar that has been used. According to local legend, a bird was responsible for the seamless construction. Legends say the winged creature carried a powerful chemical in its beak, a substance capable of melting stone.
Sacsayhuaman feels the heat of the falcon's head, but maybe it was some falcons or maybe some bird people who could connect with the place.
But is it possible, as ancient astronaut theories suggest, that the mythical bird might actually have been a spacecraft piloted by alien visitors known to the locals as Space Brothers?
I believe that it's a combination of the Space Brothers technology with other kind of possibilities. Nowadays we know, well, different kind of tools. We didn't have before this kind of tools. Or maybe we have more sophisticated. So the thing is that this place, Sacsayhuaman, it continues as that history.
So looking at all these sites with these perfectly stacked stones, we're looking at a type of technology that's not used anywhere else on Earth. I don't discount human ingenuity, but that type of engineering that we still can't duplicate today must raise a flag for further consideration. It's almost extraterrestrial in a sense. Someone had to have taught them these techniques. But whether the process of forming the large megalithic stones involved the use of thermal energy or a mysterious chemical, one thing is certain. The ancient builders used the technique on a vast scale. But why? What was the intended purpose of creating such intricately built stone structures? So we can't really give an answer as to what they were being used for, other than we know that the extraterrestrials more than likely are the source of what they call gods. How did they get here? More than likely in some type of craft. Very possibly they could have been using these large megaliths as platforms to land on. But if Sacsayhuaman was in fact constructed by alien visitors, might there be a
additional evidence of their time on Earth and other ancient sites around the world. Perhaps there is. And the path to that evidence is clearly marked in stones. Few sites on Earth are as majestic or as treacherous as the jagged region of Brittany located on the northwest coastline of France. Here can be found the legendary Carnac stones, a collection of over 3,000 massive rocks, arranged in rows and other shapes, and spreading across more than 2 miles of French countryside.
We're talking thousands of stones that are lined in straight rows, lined in circles, lined in squares and rectangles. Why are people doing this? Why are they putting so much time and energy into something? And the short answer, I believe, is that we really don't know.
According to the local legend, the megaliths were originally invading Roman soldiers turned to stone by Merlin the magician. But it wasn't magic that created this forest of stones, or what he did.
Modern archaeologists would say that people who were one step removed from cavemen were quarrying these giant stones, some of them weighing 100, 200 tons, even up to 350 tons, and somehow moving them into place. When you first look at the stones here at Garnet, they seem to be in a haphazard shape. But on closer examination, you can see that most of the stones have been cut on one side or another. In fact, these granite megaliths are magnetized with the earth, and nearly all of them come to a point.
Stone magnets. Is it possible that these stones were really cut in position in such a way as to create some sort of geomagnetic field? But why?
Karnak as a place is highly charged with energy. As you walk down the stone corridors, you can feel this charge. Many tourists who come here also like to touch the stone and feel the energy coming off of it. The people who built Karnak must have been highly knowledgeable of the Earth's energy field.
According to a concept known as the world grid theory, certain places on our planet contain higher magnetic forces than others. An interesting coincidence for all the megalithic structures we have around the Earth is that they're placed at specific points that can be harnessing an ancient world energy grid.
Force in that potential to create a funnel-like vortex. When we look at things like the Giza pyramids or Machu Picchu or Baalbek in Lebanon, all of these are placed at specific geocoded locations which relate to this world energy grid. Could Karnak be one of these locations? And might the combination of geomagnetic properties and the unique shapes of the stones themselves have allowed ancient builders to actually manipulate gravity? If so, where did this knowledge come from? And what ultimate purpose did it serve?
It wasn't until we were able to see these stones from above in a helicopter that we realized that Karnak was meant to be seen from the sky above us.
And that is one of only 3 things that you can see from outer space: Nazca, the Great Wall in China, and Karnak. Were they meant to be seen by people in the sky? Who could have been flying at that time other than extraterrestrials? At one end of the Karnak alignment
aerial researchers identified a stone circle, similar to the one found at Stonehenge. At the other end, investigators on the ground discovered a rectangle of stones, one that had been buried for centuries. Both groupings appeared precisely placed to predict both the summer and the winter solstice. And when even more closely examined from above, the solstice points and the alignment of Karnak's many rows of stones reveal yet another geometric phenomenon, the shape of a Pythagorean, or right triangle, covering many square miles. But how could the builders of Karnak have had knowledge of a sophisticated mathematical theorem approximately 2,000 years before its discovery by the Greek mathematician Pythagoras?
We're talking Stone Age time. And they knew about a squared plus b squared equals c squared? They knew about it, yes. But why? Who told them this? At the time, extraterrestrials told our ancestors, put this stone here, put this stone there, with the idea that a future generation would have to stumble across this mathematical riddle that somebody would say, hold on a second, this was erected during the Stone Age, yet here we have advanced mathematics. How is this possible?
I think that these stones are transmitting energy that extraterrestrials or others in airships could pick up this energy like a GPS system or some kind of airport beacon and use it for navigating the entire planet.
Gigantic triangles, made of stone, geomagnetic phenomenon, the possibility of an extraterrestrial encounter with humans thousands of years ago. But if alien visitors did touch down at Karnak, where else did they land? And where did they come from? Perhaps a recently discovered archaeological site in Armenia will provide the answer. The Sionid province, southern Armenia. Approximately 140 miles southeast of the nation's capital, Yerevan, lies the city of Sisium. Nearby sits a high plateau where hundreds of ancient stones, some weighing more than 50 tons, stretch over a third of a mile. This is Karahunj, also known as the Armenian Stonehenge. Estimated to be approximately 7,500 years old, Karahunj predates the British Stonehenge by more than 4,500 years. The site is made of 203 slabs of basalt. At the structure's center stands the stone circle, or henge.
When most people hear of Stonehenges, they think of the Stonehenge in England, but there are
Zero alcohol. Taste. Just put it back out.
Hey, back out there.
hundreds of these henges or stone circles scattered all across Europe. What they were and how they were used is still a mystery.
Mainstream archaeology still doesn't agree on who lived there or who the builders were of that site. What we do know, though, is that the entire site is definitely a part of some type of an astronomical model.
But how could this simple circular array of stones have given early man information about the stars. Is it possible that Karahunj might be the world's oldest observatory? In September of 2010, England's Oxford University sent an expedition to investigate.
What makes this exceptional megalithic monument unique are the small holes which have been bored into the rock at different angles. There are 85 stones with holes. They're like telescopes. What we see with these holes is that they are pointed at different alignments to positions on the horizon or into the night sky. What they're pointing at is still a mystery to us. But we can say with certainty from the archaeological evidence that there was some sort of way to connect man and his life on Earth to the heavens above. And this would be the first time that we can say that people were systematically trying to understand their place in the solar system.
This site is also called the Zorat's Terror, which means the stones of the powerful. And what has been determined is that the outline of these stones actually does correspond to the constellation known as Cygnus, or the Swan, which in certain cultures is also referred to as the Vulture.
Cygnus has always been seen among cultures around the world for many, many thousands of years as a point of entry and exit into the sky world. This belief in a power in the stars, the idea that we come from the stars and actually return there in death.
The early Greeks, Chinese, and others also believed that Cygnus had a special power or unique significance. But why? Why would so many ancient cultures around the world have similar myths about the same constellation?
The only reason why I would do this if I were on a foreign planet is to give a message to future generations, to say, hey, nudge, nudge, this is where we came from.
Although today it is no longer possible to see Cygnus through the notches of Karahunj, many theories exist as to why the position of the constellation has changed so drastically.
This site dates back to antiquity, where the Earth's axis was in a different position, and you had the constellation visible in the sky at that time because of the fact that the Earth was on a different tilt of its axis entirely.
Mainstream scientists have calculated that the Earth's axis slowly changes, or wobbles, over a 26,000-year period. But there are other researchers who believe these shifts happen more suddenly and dramatically. They claim that when these events occur, they cause major climate changes, flooding of biblical proportion, and the widespread destruction of life. But if these rapid shifts did occur, might Karahunj have been designed to provide something of a warning?
It's possible that the Armenian Stonehenge was one of the initial sites where ETs came to visit. And if there had been some sort of shift on the Earth's axis before, if there were periodic cataclysms, then maybe there is a time cycle in which those cataclysms happen. And maybe these ancients were very concerned about watching the astronomical alignments because they wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to happen again.
But could alien visitors from other worlds have come to this spot even before Karahunj was built? Perhaps petroglyphs in the area, much older than the standing stones, offer even more clues.
There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of images of humanoid figures on these sites. Some of them are quite distorted and difficult to understand and interpret.
The Armenian Stonehenge also has some interesting carved wall reliefs that show humanoid-looking beings. Now, many people have speculated that these could be possibly extraterrestrial. You look at the very bulbous-shaped heads, slanted eyes, very similar to what we see in a modern-day gray alien.
Look at the eyes. Look at the shape of the head. What's interesting in this carving right here, those extraterrestrials are holding some type of a disc. You've got this sphere that's sort of just floating there in midair. Is it possible that these here represent flying discs? And the answer is yes, because again, this is a human rendering of something that they witnessed a long time ago. And it had to have been compelling enough for them to carve this into stone.
Could these ancient stone carvings actually be primitive portraits of visitors from the sky? Did ancient astronauts really use Kara-Hunch as some sort of landing site or early portal? If so, what secrets did they leave behind? And could they still be helping to create stone monoliths, even in our own time? Homestead, Florida, 30 miles south of Miami. This former agricultural town is home to one of the most mysterious structures in North America. A stone garden made of sculpted blocks of ancient coral. Some weigh 30 tons. It's called the Coral Castle. Spread over several acres, the complex formations and intricate designs of the stone walls and sculptures marvel tourists. But unlike other great structures around the world, this site is not ancient. Coral Castle in Florida is often said to be the only modern megalithic structure ever built. In 1923, Ed Leeds Skolnick, a Latvian immigrant, began building what he originally called Rockgate Park. But believe it or not, Leeds Skolnick insisted that he was not using modern machinery to build the impressive structure. He also claimed that he was working alone.
Well, Ed was a hermit, and Ed was a loner, and he was a foreigner, and he was a recluse, and a scientist. He was in love with a woman, and he wanted to build this facility in memory of her, and he waited for her to come from Europe, and he waited, and he waited, and she never did. But the big question is how did this frail little man move these thousands of pounds of block by himself?
Barely over 5 feet tall and weighing just 100 pounds, Leeds Skolnick is said to have carved, moved, and hoisted huge multi-ton stones using only a makeshift tripod.
He has a tripod, 3 pieces of Florida pine, and he's got some chains. And he's now going to lift 30 tons, 10 tons of rock. Can't be done. No one could do that. He would work at night. He wouldn't let anybody watch him. And he said that he knew the secrets of the pyramids.
But what exactly was Leeds Skolnick referring to? Had he rediscovered the same advanced technology used to build megalithic structures like Karnak and Sacsayhuama?
Ed, over and over again, would tell people that he knew the secrets that helped the Egyptians build the pyramids. What was he talking about? Why was he constantly harking back to the Egyptians? We don't know.
Leeds Skolnick continued work on the Coral Castle until his death in 1951. In the journals he left behind, the builder explained that he had discovered the ancient secret of transforming stones into weightless objects.
Ed says this in his pamphlet, The Magnetic Current, that real gravity is actually real magnet. So if you reverse the magnet force with a force of some kind of electromagnetic radio perhaps frequency, you can then make these rocks not as heavy as they seem otherwise, and therefore you can lift them.
But if Fleet Skolman had developed a device that could modify gravity, what was his secret? Some suggest the answer lies in a mysterious black box that can be seen in various photographs. A box that has since disappeared.
The black box sitting on top is the element that no one has ever seen except in those pictures, and no one has today. We believe that black box has something to do with how he got these massive, heavy, brittle pieces of rock up in the air in a way that no one can duplicate.
He had some kind of magnetic machine down in one of his other house areas that has since been dismantled, but it had a revolving ability. He may have been having that thing spin. The whole place could have been anti-gravity. Probably just pushed these into place.
Levitation is the only way that I know of to hold up very heavy objects. Very, very high-speed trains are magnetically levitated. These high-speed trains don't have wheels that touch any tracks. They're literally suspended above the track using magnetic forces.
We can speculate at this time that there are techniques for using electromagnetism to nullify gravity. This was the great quest of Einstein. The motivation for such technology, of course, to lift a large spaceship out into space and across space.
Could it be that Edley Skolman utilized anti-gravity to levitate and distribute the enormous rocks used to build Coral Castle? If so, where did this incredible knowledge come from?
And he died taking this secret to his grave. The question is, did he invent it, or did he himself somehow inherit it or learn it from a tradition, or maybe from some visitor from another realm?
The only thing that is explainable is that someone with a higher form of physics and understanding of gravity has created the ability of one person to lift stones that modern technology could not do the way he did it. It had to come from a different place than this galaxy.
The fact that one guy created massive structures is absolutely fascinating. Am I suggesting that he did this with extraterrestrial technology? No, because I don't know. Am I excluding that possibility? No. If aliens visited Earth in ancient times, perhaps the world's unexplained structures provide clues to unlocking not only the secrets of our past, but a glimpse into our future.
I think that extraterrestrials would not have left our solar system some thousands of years ago without any proof. They wanted that in the far future we start to reflect. Have we been visited by outer space?
Perhaps additional clues still lie hidden, etched on more massive stones, and waiting to be discovered right before our eyes.
Upwards Pharmacy is now in your neighborhood. Get in and out quickly by transferring your prescriptions to Publix Pharmacy. Even bring your prescription bottles, and we'll make the switch for you. Find a nearby location at Publix.com/new pharmacy.
You see that Giving Pump campaign? Stop and fill up your car at that purple pump. I don't think we could do it without the community support that we have. It's a simple way to give back to a great cause.
Gods descending to earth, converging on the same hallowed ground. A holy shrine built to mark the landing of a meteorite. And sacred caves whose walls are lined with images of strange half-human beings. Are holy sites around the world the product of man's reverence for God? Or are they the result of contact with ancient space travelers?
There's no question that these monuments might have had some kind of ET intervention. They're just too immense, too perfect to be constructed by ancient mankind.
Yes, it was human beings built this place, but with the technology given by extraterrestrials. Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And if so, how did they influence the creation of mankind's sacred places? It is perhaps the most sacred site in all of humanity. The place where three of the world's most prominent religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all converge. It is the heart and soul of what is called the Holy Land. Temple Mount, Old City, Jerusalem. And this 35-acre plateau, surrounded by ancient walls, has been considered sacred for thousands of years.
The Temple Mount is sacred to Jews and Christians because it's at this spot that Abraham bound Isaac and prepared to sacrifice him in Genesis 22. For Muslims, this site is sacred because it's from the rock where the Dome of the Rock today stands that Muhammad ascended into heaven.
What we have on the Temple Mount really is a mixture of three religions, and each one of them has got an aspect to it which makes the place even more important. But in origin, really what we have is a place where God touched down on planet Earth. And ever after, this is the place where communications with the afterlife or the divine realm is to be made.
Each year, millions of pilgrims come to Temple Mount to worship God and celebrate holy occasions. But why? In the 10th century BC, King David and the Israelites chose this rocky high ground to build a great temple.
This was the site that David, the great king of Israel, had conquered. And so it already had a kind of a blessing about it, because this was where the people of Israel were destined to center their lives in this sacred kind of place.
According to the Bible, King David, who had just made Jerusalem his capital, wanted to build in it a house for the Lord. But for reasons that aren't entirely clear, he didn't do so, and it was his son Solomon who built the first Jewish temple.
Completed in 957 BC by David's son, King Solomon. The temple was said to house the Ark of the Covenant. The sacred chest, believed to have contained the stone tablets on which the Ten Commandments were written. But according to many ancient astronaut theorists, the Ark also may have contained a power source of extraterrestrial origin.
In the Bible, you read about the Ark of the Covenant. Moses was ordered to go to the Holy Mount, and the Lord gave Moses instruction to construct the Ark of the Covenant. As we know later, the Ark of the Covenant was something very, very dangerous.
Solomon installed it in the temple